point now where we want to hear about this World War II fighter pilot, his antics, his exploits, and all the bullshit he come up with.
Is it all right if I bring my tackle box up so nobody steals it?
Sure.
I plan on doing a little fishing. Make some notes, not because I really need them. I didn't want to tell you about how I slow rolled over the field in a P-47 before I ever got out of primary, so I got to kind of keep things in order here. Carol told me I better limit this to about 10 minutes or you'll all be bored to death. She asked me how long I planned on, and I said, well, I don't think I can get it in less than 2 hours. She said, where are you going to start? And I said, I'm going to start in junior high school.
Time's up, time's up.
You may like this. It's the only thing I remember about junior high school. Our guidance class. In 1938, I was 13 years old. The teacher asked everybody to stand up and tell what our life goals were. What was our occupation going to be? Well, I was a little short squirt in the back row, head shorter than all the rest of the boys and skinny as a rail. And all the bigger boys stood up, I'm going to be a policeman. I'm going to be a fireman. Some of them doctor, some a lawyer, and they finally got around to me. I said, I'm going to be a fighter pilot. And the teacher got up from her desk and said, oh, Billy Barry, be realistic. Well, a few years later, on the 25th of March, 1943, as usual, I was down at Buck's Pool Hall in the evening, and a couple of my buddies, Bob and Billy Hawkins, were going to go to Chanute Air Force, well, Chanute Field back then, and sign up for the Aviation Cadets. And I said, what are the Aviation Cadets? Well, they didn't really know either, but they said you don't have to sign up for the draft. And it's something like the CAP. And I said, do you get to fly airplanes? And they said, yeah, I think you do after a couple of years. So we went over the next day, the 26th of March. Took physicals half the day, written tests half the day. Come home, celebrated my 18th birthday the next day. I still had a couple of months of high school left. They wouldn't have drafted me because they always let you finish high school, but I got a letter from the president the next day. President Roosevelt, report for duty tomorrow. I had to report to a classification center. Now I'm going to skip pre-flight and primary and basic flying and advanced. I had a lot of exciting, interesting experiences there, but Carol said I better cut all that stuff out, and I'm going to have you bored, and I won't get to the good stuff. So, January 1944, since I was the first class to skip the college training program, and I got in one day after my birthday, I'm sure I was probably the youngest fighter pilot and second lieutenant in the Air Force. For that one day, anyway. And then, not too much later, after flying P-40s, oh, let me show you what a P-40 looks like. I think I got one here. You can pass this around. The ones we flew in RTU, if you want to pass it around. I know some of you don't know what planes with a propeller on the front even look like. But the ones we were flying were I think they call them the K model. Actually, it had been flown with Flying Tiger. You could see the patched up fuselage, and they got all new planes over there and sent their old K models back. So I got about 50 or 60 in it. And then, right after that, I found myself coming into Naples Harbor on a cruise ship that had been what they usually call the submarine runners. They relied on speed to get over there rather than a convoy with destroyers. And in Naples, we got on a C-47 and took off and landed on Corsica. And we had a welcoming committee for the guys going into my squadron, the 64th Fighter Squadron. The welcoming committee was all the pilots that were left, and there wasn't over 12 or 15 of them. And the way they welcomed us was come out and say, "Praise God, you finally arrived." Some of them got on their knees and kissed our feet. You know, like scaring us to death on what time that was like. That evening we got a second welcome. One of them, carefully orchestrated, dropped a tray full of stuff behind us. And all the old timers dived under the tables yelling, "Flack, flack, flack." So us 5 new guys ended up in a tent. We had a dirt floor. So it wasn't dirt for one day, and we found we could take that pressed steel runway apart on the end of it and make it about a foot shorter, 2 feet shorter, I guess, and have a nice steel tent floor. I think maybe some of the rest of you guys might have done that. So next day I was due for a checkout on the P-47. I'd never even seen one before. And riding over here reminded me of that checkout. Let's see, Brad. That's the one with the dark shirt in there. He was driving a rental car he rented in Evansville to come over here. And somebody said, "You got your lights on?" He says, "Hell, I don't know. I don't know which button it is. How do you turn the wipers on?" Well, that's the same kind of a checkout I got in the P-47. A guy named Pribble, first lieutenant, said, "Here's where you started. Here's the throttle. Here's the flap handle. Here's the landing gear handle." So I got in and I shoved the throttle forward and got up in the air, and there was a big hill in front of us on Corsica. Reached down to the landing gear handle and it wouldn't come up. Well, I put the stick between my legs and put both hands on it, and tried to heave it, it still wouldn't come up. And then, right then, my prop was hitting some of the tops of those trees out ahead of us. So I real carefully got out over the water and started figuring around. There was a little button on the end of that. I've been flying the P-47 that had a lever to pull the gear up. So I got the gear up. I could have killed myself right there without ever flying a mission. The next day was my first mission. Oh, incidentally, on that same field, we had the French Lafayette Escadrille flying RP-47, but they were in a separate unit out away from us. And there were a few women running around with shaved heads and still hadn't got the tar off their bodies since we got there and the Germans had left. You can imagine what those women were doing with the Germans. My first mission, dive bombing, I'll guarantee you, I never even saw the target. I mean, that flak breaking all around, I saw my flight leader go down. Gee, I imagine everybody's first mission is like that. I just went down with them, pulled the bomb lever, let them go, and just trusted the luck. And after about 3 or 4 missions, and you guys that fly can appreciate this, plane I was assigned to wouldn't go for some reason. I forget. The crew chief said, "You got to take another one." Everybody else was ready to take off. I was number 2 man. The flight leader always let the new guys fly on his wing. They were all taking off. They run me over to another plane. I got her started all up. Didn't check anything. The flaps were full down. Ran out the end of the runway. Took off with full flaps. And I'll tell you, if you take off with full flaps in a P-47, you've got to go like this to keep it from going this way and this way. And I just went right up like an elevator to about 2,000 feet. I knew better than to pull the flaps up, because if I'd have pulled them up, I'd have just gone right in. I got about 2,000 feet. Well, here was the other 7 guys. They're out, coming back. Here was Bill Barry like this. Dropped my flaps and fell right in on the wing of the flight leader. Well, half of the guys thought I was brilliant. The other half knew I was an idiot. We'd lay awake in our tent at night, listen to Axis Sally, sometimes called Berlin Sally, counterpart of Tokyo Rose, and she'd play the big band music from the States, and we'd hear some of the nice songs, but she would intersperse that with the threat. Any of you American airmen shot down after dropping napalm on our troops will never become fathers. And if you don't know what that means, you just aren't capable of figuring it out. So we laughed at those threats, but we did enjoy our music. After a few missions, we transferred over to Grosseto, Italy. Then a bunch of new guys came in. In the meantime, though, I still only had like 40 missions, and a bunch of guys had 60 or 70, so I was still flying wing. Occasionally tail end Charlie, which means number 8 in an 8-ship formation, the last guy down. And we started bombing in the Brenner Pass. The Brenner Pass connects Italy with Austria. I think it's Verona up there, Italy, and what is it in Austria, first town? Innsbruck? I think it's Innsbruck.
It is Innsbruck.
Well, when you bomb in the Brenner Pass, you've got the solid mountains, that's the Alps on one side. There's solid mountains on the left, except for one V in there. And right on the other side of that V is Lake Garda, big resort area now. So when we dive bomb in there, we'd have to come in and almost go straight down. We couldn't do it like normal. Go down, try to break the rail line, and then come out through that pass. And the Germans had stretched cables across there, knowing that's the only way we can get out after dive bombing. Well, I was feeling kind of hot one time when I was tail end Charlie. Everybody bombed. There was no way to make a strafing pass after you bomb. And I thought, what if I put my wheels down and my flaps down and dive bomb that way? And then maybe I can bomb and go up like this. I remembered when I made that stupid takeoff and go down and actually get the straight part of one of those trains. And it worked real fine. I went down like this, did this. Nobody heard about it except a couple of guys in flight. Later on I tried it again. The squadron commander found out about it and he says, quit making like a Stuka. It doesn't help you one bit. Well, after about 60 missions, Bob Scheller and I both got our own planes assigned to us. Big deal. We would have our own plane. Wouldn't have to fly somebody else's. I got number 38. I got a picture of it. Passed my beautiful airplane around. Notice the red tail. Everybody else was getting these brand new slick out of the factory, shiny guys. I got this old model looking thing that was a leftover from the Tuskegee Airmen who had switched to P-51s. Meanwhile, Bob Scheller got an old one too, number 21. Well, his flew awful. I mean, nobody wanted to fly it. Mine, though, flew beautifully. Everybody wanted to fly 38 when I wasn't up in it. I want you to remember now, Scheller's 21. He made a offer of $20 to anybody who would go out and bail out of that plane. Bail out of it. I'll remember that. I'm going to bring it up later. Okay, I want to give you an example too of